What is going on, YouTube? This is Jim back with another video live from Los Angeles. This is the second of 3 videos that this channel will be covering for EA Play. You just saw Brent from Orlando talking a little bit about his hot take on the upcoming Star Wars game and what he really thinks about it. I will be covering my closed door impressions of that in the next video, but this video is to talk about EA Play as a whole. My wife and I just got back about half an hour ago. We've been in the hotel room, relaxing a little bit, and time to reflect and talk about what we saw. Typically when I do these kind of, I almost call it like a vlog really, I try to ingest some footage from the event, but I've got to say there really wasn't a lot to work with. EA notably did not have a very big presence this year. It was nice that they still did the EA Play, and there are some positives that I will be talking about, but mostly focusing on the things that they didn't get right, because the general vibe for myself and everybody else waiting around was that it really was very lackluster. Kind of almost makes you wonder why they did it. It was at the Palisade, again, same place it was when I came here 2 years ago, back in 2017, and we waited outside, you walked up, you got your wristband, business as usual, and then right about 9 a.m. Pacific, they started letting people in. And the actual show really began with Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Games, with the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order press conference, if you want to call it that, like a 30-minute block of time. That was front and center on the stage. At this point, all the game stations were closed, and there weren't a lot of game stations at all. They had Madden, they had Battlefield 5, they had Anthem, they had a small FIFA area, which was really consistent more of a giant soccer field where there were live players playing a soccer game than anything else. And then they had the Apex area, and then in the back corner, it was barred off at this time, was the Star Wars area. So my wife and I went over and stood there. The main stage was off to our left. We didn't actually even get to see the gameplay footage. We could hear it. We couldn't see it because we weren't looking at the main stage, but we knew that we wanted to sneak over to that Star Wars area. So we waited right outside the door, or right outside the rope, and then about 9:45 or so, they opened up the rope, and we all ran basically to get in line to see the Jedi Fallen Order behind closed doors trailer. No gameplay though. It's very interesting, and I'll talk about that in a separate video because I think that warrants its own discussion. Outside of that, there wasn't really a lot to see or do. There were a lot of celebrities walking around. We saw Trevor Noah. We saw Bravo, if you're familiar with him from the Halo 5. He used to be the community manager, and then he was also a game director for Halo 5. He's since largely gone off in a lot of independent sports, I shouldn't say sports, esports commentating with Golden Boy. We saw Golden Boy was there. We saw him. We saw Jay Frechette, aka Jay Fresh. He's the current community manager of Respawn. I saw Greg Miller. I saw Snowbike Mike from Kind of Funny Games. And I saw Brittany and Steimer from What's Good Games. Andrea had some sort of emergency surgery, so she wasn't there. Dr. Disrespect was supposed to be at 3 o'clock. We left before then because we were bored. And we saw Pokemon. So a lot of people walking around. Really hard to get photos of people because it was very, very congested, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with how this is laid out, but it's basically, just think of a giant outside parking lot. EA came in and walled it off, put some carpet down, so there were some parts that were pavement, some parts that were this black or red carpet, and there were all these tents off on the sides, and then there's just kind of a main corridor. So you could see people walking by, but unless I was standing with my cell phone holding it out and recording every single thing I was looking at, there's just a lot of encounters where people just brush by and you're like, hey, that was Greg Miller. Hey, that was blah, blah, blah. So we really didn't get to take a lot of photos in that sense. In terms of the layout, they had a couple game stations. They were showing off the new Battlefield 5 map. That's something that my wife and I got to play a match in. You go in this giant tent. There was a bunch of gaming PCs. It was hot as heck in there because those computers were just puking out major, major exhaust. Definitely overclocked computers. Got to play a match of that. We didn't go into the Apex booth, but they did have the new character there. We didn't check that out. The Sims was there. We're not a big fan of the Sims. We didn't check that out. We saw the Star Wars thing, which, as I mentioned, I'll talk about in another video. And that was really it in terms of some of the things to see. The things to do. EA did a really good job. They had water stations set up everywhere, water bottles. They were giving away water bottles for free. They gave away bags. They gave away hats that looked like an umbrella top, so you could put it on to protect yourself from the sun. I didn't need one, but that was nice. They were giving those away. They had a bunch of food trucks in the back. Now those you had to pay for. And then they had a lot of little snack stations. So they had Jello shots from Apex Legends, which was kind of bizarre, but okay. And they also had ice cream, like Star Wars ice cream, which was very interesting. So there was a couple little things to do to kind of keep you entertained. They had a couple photo op sessions where you can take a photo and they would green screen you in with some characters from some of the franchises. They had a couple merchandise booths of Apex Legends shirts and Star Wars shirts. They had a band. They had a community signing session for all different fans. I wanted to see the Dr. Disrespect, but he didn't start till 3, and like I said, we got bored and we left. But they had that going on. So they tried to, I don't know, I feel like they tried to do as much as they could with what they had, but the reality is there wasn't really a lot to see. And we got in and out. We were there right when the doors opened. We actually got there early because they said registration started at 8. We were there pretty close to 8 a.m. And I think we left about, I'd say 1:15. By 1:15 we were done, and that included the we could have walked through it. The line for Anthem, for example, was really short. We could have played games there, but we didn't. We didn't play Apex. That was a really short line and everything. I think if you wanted to see the entire thing, you probably could have got through it all in about maybe 5 hours. They had a app that you could download, a companion app where you could basically reserve slots, but all the slots were full, so we just had to wait in line. Frustrating thing is with most of these conferences, the press usually gets priority, and people who have somehow press credentials or at least, fan or friends or something access. So in most of the lines you would take, 20 or 30 people that were press and then 2 or 3 people that were bystanders. So unfortunately, the later you got in the day, the lines tended to get longer, but I still think you could have knocked everything out in, no more than a day. Absolutely no more than a day. The game stations themselves, they were nice, the ones that we got to see and participate and play some of the games in, but there wasn't a lot of them. And one of the things that was really baffling to us was why we couldn't play the Star Wars game. That was just a trailer reaction, so you go in a little tent and you watch a little video. That seemed kind of odd. It seemed like they were really banking a lot on that more than anything else. General perception from a lot of the other people that we were waiting in line with and just some friends that we made along the way were mostly lackluster. But, the nice things that did stand out, that EA tried to make it fun. I was surprised, really. I think my big takeaway, not seeing any Anthem news, I think was a major misstep. And I think the other major misstep was they didn't have any independent games to show. They got a great platform with EA Origin Premier and EA Access on the Xbox and now on the PlayStation 4 consoles. A lot of really cool indie games that are out there. You have a lot of really great, like A Way Out and Unraveled, or two that really come to mind that were phenomenal games, really through that platform. And I really think they blew an opportunity of not having a station set up for the indie games. But it just seemed like it was a check in the box kind of thing. And I'm not really even sure in hindsight why it was there. When we were walking out, there's a lot of us all leaving around the same time because we all kind of huddled up and walked through the same exhibits together. And we were all very baffled as to why it happened. So I think EA probably should have skipped this year if this is what they were really going to present. And I think Star Wars could have been its own live stream, something akin to like you see in Call of Duty or Destiny or something like that. I don't think they needed to have this big press conference for that. Really funny little side note, and then I'll wrap up this video. After Greg Miller got done broadcasting, the final shot of him is him walking out, with his arm around his buddy. All right, now we can actually go play games. And, this press conference has been boring so far because all I've been doing is hosting and I haven't gotten to see anything. He walked out. and I don't mean because the camera stopped. I said, okay, thank you. They stopped shooting. He turned around, he shook all the employees' hands, and then he walked out the building. He left. So, I mean, was he done too? I mean, really? There wasn't that much to see. I mean, people trying to make a 2-day event out of this. I don't know if I could see it. I mean, there wasn't maybe if there was a streamer or something you wanted to see as part of the celebrity signings later on, maybe. But once you kind of walk through it, there wasn't there wasn't a whole lot to sink your teeth into. So with that, I'm going to close out this video, and I will talk a little bit about Star Wars in another video, because I think that warrants a little bit more of a deeper dive. But hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. Comment, rate, subscribe, all that great stuff. And until next time, I will see you guys in the other side.